I'm about 3 weeks into my Rebuilding Glory campaign, and the fighting has seriously heated up, so I figured it's a good time to make some videos about which commanders I have seen be the most successful in the current Rise to War metagame. This video will be about good side commanders, my next video will be about evil side commanders, so if you want to stay one step ahead of your competition, stay tuned. Welcome back, everyone. Take a quick glance at this map. Look at all of these battle markers. This season has been an absolute bloodbath, but it's also been extremely fun to play. So let's talk about which commanders have been most successful, in my opinion, for good side factions. We'll go ahead and start things off with our Tier 3 commander pool. Let me just get it pulled up here. So I would say the standout star, in my opinion, has been none other than Gilgalad. Probably does not surprise many of you if you've played Rebuilding Glory before. This guy's an absolute machine with elves. The most common skill build I've seen involves taking Kingly Kin, Exorbitance, High King, Chaotic Retreat, Elven Leader, and then a few points, or at least 1 point into Icicle. This allows his army to do crazy amounts of damage during the first rounds of combat due to Chaotic Retreat and the potential of elves gaining follow-up, while pretty much taking no damage at all because of a extremely high chance to evade damage. I don't know why they call it evade in some cases and avoidance in others. It's really the same mechanic. I will say, however, that as Gilgalad has been gaining more and more popularity and notoriety, the use of pursuit accessories, while more difficult for evil factions than good factions to utilize, I have seen more people running pursuit accessories. So if you have a pursuit accessory, particularly if you're a good faction, the Wizard's Fireworks, keep a hand on that. If you're evil faction and you get pursuit on the Palantir, you might want to hang on to that as well. Other than Gilgalad, I've seen a lot of success coming from Gandalf the White, Gandalf the Grey's big brother, essentially. The most common builds I've seen involve taking the White with at least 1 point in Blindside, at least 1 point in Wizard, usually 2 points in Wizard, 1 point in Surge. If you're fighting good factions, more points in Wizard can be useful because good side troops tend to have very high defense, and this reduces their defense. And then the real meat and potatoes is White Rider with horsemanship. People tend to like running him as a pure cavalry commander due to the combination of horsemanship boosting their damage, and also Gandalf the White can do pretty substantial damage on his own, so he does like his army being a little bit more tanky, and mounted units are good at that. As far as the White goes, it's like the Gray, except the opposite. Rather than healing your troops whenever Gandalf does damage, he has a chance to deal even more damage. So 50% chance whenever he deals damage to deal additional 6.6% focus damage. Obviously that scales up as you level up. So you really want a weapon like a Smite Carver on this guy. I have seen some people running with his unique, and it's absolutely insane in my opinion, because after he deals damage, rather after he attacks, he deals extra physical damage and extra focus damage, meaning he gets 2 damage procs every single time he attacks, whereas something like a Smite Carver only happens 50% of the time. So this is 2 extra sources of damage for 2 extra chances to proc additional damage from the White. Moving on to Tier 2 commanders, in my opinion, the standout star in the current metagame is Gimli. His unique item is extraordinarily good in my opinion, being one of the best unique items in the game. It's very easy for him to activate both sets of these damage bonuses, and they do stack, as well as hitting 100 focus, so that he permanently always has pursuit, which, if you remember, we just talked about Gilgalad a few moments ago. Pursuit is a very valuable effect to have in the current metagame, at least when you're fighting against good side factions. And of course, Gandalf the Grey is still as popular as ever. There are many different Gandalf the Grey builds out there. A lot of it will depend on whether you're fighting good factions or evil factions. If you're fighting evil, the entire White Council tree is very, very good, granting Champion of the Light, which lets your army deal more damage to orcs, urukai, and trolls, as well as High Alert to reduce incoming burn damage from alchemists. Pretty much every build will put at least 2 into Wizard, 1 into Surge. Take the full Mithrandir tree, or at least full Mithrandir with Convener. And then also some points in the Gray, at least 1 point in Blindside. And then some people really like Fleeting Movements, some people don't. It is an extra source of avoidance. However, with Pursuit becoming more and more popular, I do think that the value of having an extra avoidance effect on your commander is probably going to decrease as more and more people start running Gil-galad, in which case I think people will likely shift more points over to Wizard for an extra early round defense reduction. And we'll wrap things up talking about the Tier 1 commanders. Absolutely the standout star, in my opinion, has been Dwalin. This guy, he can just do everything. He does a ton of damage if you build him for damage. He's good early game for taking tiles because he has a healing build. He can counter the Witch King, especially if you combine Warrior of the Lonely Mountains, burn damage received minus 50%. If you combine that with a blinding barrier helmet and use tier 2 knights, your army is basically taking no burn damage, like significantly reduced burn damage, and you're just using those T2 knights, which are honestly quite tanky, especially for their price point and training time. And then Dwalin is just shredding things on his own, so that's a very popular build I've seen somewhat recently, more so this season than other seasons, as far as countering Witch King specifically goes. I mean, this guy, like I said, he just does everything. He's good early game, he's good mid game, he's good late game. He's pretty good without gear, he's extremely good with gear. He has a pretty respectable unique item as well. And then the other guy that I think is seeing more and more popularity recently is my boy Haldier. And this is because his unique item is amazing. So it always grants initiative to elf units. The wording on this is a bit deceptive. It says gain initiative and defense when battling on woodlands. When you first read it, this is the way I first interpreted it, I thought you would gain initiative and defense only when you're battling on tiles that produce wood. However, it's really elf units gain initiative, period. Elf units defense boosted when battling on woodlands. This baby always gives your elven units initiative, which is an extremely valuable effect. On top of that, it has a nice stat spread and army HP for elves. And if that's not all, this guy can crank out like 60k plus healing if you have access to eagles, and he makes ranged units do an absolutely absurd amount of damage with the combination of Galadrim, Forest Agility, which grants a chance for ranged units to attack twice in a round, as well as Guide's damage boost in the early rounds of combat. And conveniently, the max level effect of Guide provides your entire army stun immunity, and some of the most popular commanders in the current metagame, namely Gandalf the White, Gandalf the Grey, Witch King, they all come with round 1 stun effects, and Guide completely negates those stun effects. So this guy can seriously make those ranged units crank out a ton of damage. If you have eagles, his army is actually quite durable, shockingly durable for the type of commander that Haldier is. And yeah, I mean, he is just super good. On top of that, like I mentioned a minute ago, very, very nice, unique item as well. So that's it for this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it and learned something useful. I'll catch you in the next one. Phoenix, over and out.